Hi, everyone. I hope you have a great day. And I will start sharing my screen, I guess. So uh, allow me to do a brief introduction of myself. Thank you, Tyler. And I'm Dawei Wang, and I'm a second year graduate student in the data science program. And I'm also a current vice president of data science group, a tutor of CDM tutoring center. And as you may notice, we have launched our new logo, and we are planning for a lot of events for our fellow students. So I will also host a talk about different choices for international students and how and when to do like apply for the internship or lab position or like different resources in the future in upcoming weeks. And there are so many events we will be host. So stay tuned and wait for it. Again, welcome to our workshop today. So this workshop is divided into two parts. For the first part, we will talk about the what is object-oriented programming. I think we heard about this, like concept or OOP for a lot of times, but some of us may not really understand what that is. So this will be my first part, and then we will have an introduction about Tableau usage logic and how to create an interactive graph by using Tableau. So first thing first, when we talk about object-oriented programming, what's in your mind? Yes, so there are so many object-oriented languages that you are familiar with, like Python. We use that all the time. We use Java, right? C#, C++. We use R, right? PHP for building up the website, and JavaScript, right? So anything else? Maybe a lot of you guys heard like major benefits to object-oriented programming. We will say OOP for the following time. Okay, so there are a lot of benefits, right? But like this, I mean, don't turn off your Zoom. Of course, we're not gonna start with these monsters. We will start from something in our life and then abstract them for a better understanding of why we are using OOP and why it's so important for data scientists. So have you ever played some video games like Minecraft that, like you are the god of that world? So if we're a god, what should we do? We need to create a whole world, right? So first of all, we need a plan. And imagine this world that we are living. If we were creating this world, that would be a massive uh, constructions, right? So you need to create like people by people, one by one. So why don't we just create some animals first? Okay, so if we're trying to create some animals, think about this. Just like our Earth, we have a lot of different animals, right? So it's not that easy. I mean, we have like 20-ish, I think, about almost 30 participants right now. So if I wish to create you guys individually in the computer, and I need to create your guys like one by one, that would be a disaster. So maybe we can create a genotype and then create individual animals later. What does this mean, genotype? Like maybe I can create something like called man, right? So men all share some similar characteristics. Or no, maybe not characteristics, maybe properties, right? They all have they might have a beard, right? So they might have this, like muscles, or maybe some properties. And also, there are some functions for the mains, right? The main can do something. So I think maybe this is a good idea if we wish to create like animal catalog, right? So we can create a general type first. So let's think about it. An animal should have something like maybe name, maybe age, or even color, right? And also, an animal also could eat, speak, and run. And also, like do other stuff. So if we can have like animal, like we have a class of animal, now we can finally create a cute dog. So what does this mean? Here, so the gender type would be the class. So when you create a class, you're actually creating like an object. So first thing first, I need to be clarified here that is everything in Python is an object. It's just different types of object. So for a class, it's an object. So you created an object. And then for this single class, for animals, you have properties, right? So this is a property of this class. And for the functions of animals like eat, speak, running, things like that, right? So those are actually, we call it method or function in computer world. And when we create everything like this, we create like class, we create the property of this class, the functions of this class, then finally we can create like something individual. Like we can create a dog, or maybe a lot of dogs, right? So what is a dog? Yes, obviously, like I said, it's an object. But what is this object? The dog actually call an instance in OOP, in object-oriented programming. So this instance is and it is from an animal class. So it has all these animals properties and functions. So let's get started with some, like Python code, because if I'm gonna stay in this way, I guess everyone will be fall asleep. So, wait a minute. So let's say, okay. So here, I actually shared these two Python codes files in our chat. And please be noticed that we are just using this Python codes to get understanding this object-oriented programming concepts. You can, of course, you can ask any questions about codes, about coding, but majorly we are using these codes to let you guys have a better understanding of why we are having class and how we are having class. Okay. So like I said, you are the god of this world, right? So right now, let's just start with an animal class. What do we need? Let's start with class animal. So this means we are creating a class object called animal. And right after that, normally we will do a constructor. The constructor will initialize your class. So you may also edit some default properties methods like, like double underlines class, double underlines dog, etc. So this, we will not covering this part. You are welcome to, like look, check it out by yourself. But let's go back to the constructor. So now we have blueprint, which is just like white paper. There's nothing. So we're thinking, okay, let's create some animals, right? So first of all, let's create a class called animal. And then, And then the constructor is used for initialize of this class. That means if we use def, that means define a function. And double, please remember this always double underscore and initial, right? Int. And then self. And then we will give the animals some name, right? We'll give them names, we'll give them species, we'll give them age, we'll also give them color. And also you've noticed, you might ask like, why we are using self here? So when calling the properties inside the class, Python requires a self. That is actually referring to the class itself. So it actually means class itself. So, okay, so let's see what default properties do we have. Here we have a name, right? We have a name. So we will need to make the properties of the class. That means we need to use self.name. And what is self.name? We need to give the value, right? So the value is actually from the constructor. It's an input parameter. And then what we are doing is trying to give all these properties a value, right? And then remember, the animals could do something like speak, right? So like run, but that could be very complex. So let's just start with a very simple function called speak. So here we're actually creating a function for the class animal. We call it speak. And it's pretty simple here. You can see we are just simply print out a word here. So let's try to make this class work. And I'm gonna use the, I'm gonna use the terminal here on the bottom of my screen, if you can see it. So right now I have already put the class animal into my terminal or into my console. So, okay, let's say we have the class animal, right? So I can't wait to build up some animals, right? I can build up a fish. So I will say, I will write down fish here. And this means nothing right now. But after I put equal sign, the thing on the right side of equal, it will define your variable or your object. So here, this line actually means I'm creating a class that is animal class, and I'm naming this object or instance fish. So let's try what will happen here. We have some error. So the error says our constructor requires 4 different arguments: name, species, age, and color, right? But here I didn't write anything. So we can't just simply create a fish by using this, this line. How do we fix this problem? There are 2 ways. For one is like, okay, so let me create a dog, like my dog. And then, like I said, for an animal, it has to have a name, right? Species, age, and color. So I will just write down the name is Coco, and okay, he or she is a dog, and she's 5 years old, and she's brown. So in this case, let's just try to run this one. There is no error message. And when I check about this my dog here, you can see it's a animal object. This part is the position in your memory, so we don't really need to care about this part. So, okay, we know this is an animal object, which means it's an instance. So we have this instance, right? Then we're thinking to, it's a dog, right? It's a dog, so it could speak. So let's just let my dog speak. Oh, sorry. right? So when I let my dog speak, you can say, I am Coco and I'm 5 years old. My brown fur looks amazing. So this is something we have encoded as a function for the dog class here. Okay, so let me just like rephrase this part in case you didn't understand it very clearly. So class animal is more like a category, right? So for an animal, it has some different properties. And also for the animal, it also have some functions, or we might call it methods in programming. So if we already define the animal class is looking like this. So that means for each animal that you create, it has to have a name, a species, an age, a color. That means these are all the properties of your animal. And also your animal also could speak because the animal class has this speak function by default, right? So, okay, now we have an animal class. Imagine, I can create a lot of animals. I can even create a zoo, right? So, like I said, like I write here, your cat, maybe his, oh, wait a minute. Maybe his name is Tom, and he's a British short hair, and he's 6 years old, and he's in blue. Okay, so if we ask your cat to speak, it will speak. So imagine this: you can create as many as you want. As you can create a lot of instances, as many as you want. You can create a dog, you can create a cat, you can create a fish, right? You can create anything you want by defining a class first. So you don't have to, like name your dog and then tell, like write down like your dog is 5 years old or your dog is in brown. Okay, so this is how we do with class. And let me just say that again, a class has a function, right? Has functions. We only have like one function here. You can define as many as you want. And also a class has properties. So how do I know like the properties of this class? It's actually simple. I would say my dog. Right now, we know that my dog is an animal, is an instance that is created by animal class. So it should have a name, right? See? So if you write down my dog.name, you will find the name of this dog. All right. So this is a general idea of, like what is the instance, what is the properties and functions. Let's go make something fun. Right? Maybe we can do some other funny animals, like human, right? Human beings are funny, maybe hilarious. Anyway, so it sounds like it's just like the animal we just built up, right? We human being, we are animal. We are animals. Admit it, right? Even though you can programming, you can do a lot of things, but you are still an animal. So to save some time, we can actually reuse what animal class has, right? So you do have a name, right? You do have age, or you do have like skin color, things like that. So that means we can treat the class animal as a base class or superclass. And then we can create a new class called human, right? We can create a new class called human. 1 minute. we can create a new class called human, but it shares some properties and functions with the class animal. Okay, now let's do the similar thing. Just to start with the constructor. Okay, so for the human, I think we still have name, species, age, color, right? And maybe you don't want species, that's fine. But we do have another thing like sex. It's pretty important for us. Even, I mean, it's important for all the animals, but let's just say it's only important for human being right now. So first thing first, we need to use this part, use the constructors from the parent class or superclass. So we use super dot in initial, and then we put all the properties you want here. And to create a human class that is inherit from the animal, you need to put the class animal in here. You have to do that. Otherwise, the Python won't know what, if you just write down like class human, and then Python will think that you are creating new class called human. So to create like a child class or subclass, we need to put the parent class name here. Okay, so after this, we can say, other than name, species, age, and color, like I mentioned, okay, so we want to add one more property, like sex. So we just put sex here and let the value of sex is equal to the sex that you input here. Okay, so other than that, we can speak, right? Human can speak. So we don't really need to do anything about speak. But I think there is a major difference between human being and animals. That is, we create a lot of tools. We create a lot of amazing stuff. So maybe we can define another function called like make or create, whatever. Remember, I said every single time when you are writing down some functions inside your class, you need to put self here, because the self is referring to the class itself, like human self. So the tools is actually input parameter that you will use during programming. So now let's set up a new property called self.tool. And this tool is actually you created, you gave this person, right? So we will print I created a tool. Okay, so let's just try. Okay, so now I'm just creating an instance, I'm sorry, called player one, that is belong to human class, which means it has name, species, age, color, and sex. So let's just run this line. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't put this part into my terminal. Okay, and then let's run this line. So now we have a player one, right? So let's check. Player one's age is 21, right? So everything looks fine. Okay, so player one also could make computer, right? So we just call the function from the human class make. As long as player one is a human, right? So you can use the functions from the class. So make. And I just put computer here. Let's see what will happen. Okay, so just like sorry, just like we expected, I created a computer, right? So what if a dog created a computer? Is that possible? Let's try this. My dog, oh, I'm sorry. I think I have typo here. My dog dot make. Okay, now you can say there is an error. It's called attribute error. It's because animal class is the parent class. It has no attribute make. The attribute make or the function make is only belong to human. So that means when you create a subclass, the functions that you write in the subclass, it will be only useful for the subclass. Okay, and also, like I mentioned, right? So our human being is still animal, so we can speak. So let me speak. Let's see what will happen if I speak. I am Dawei and I am 21 years old. My yellow fur looks amazing. It's a little bit weird, right? When I say I have yellow fur, I really don't have furs, right? So I'm not wearing fur. So this is weird. So what should we do? This comes to the time that we overwriting method. So if we have like the similar, not similar, if we have the same function that we will use in the child class, and it's the same with the function from the parent class, we can override. We can override this function by just simply define your new function like speak, right? So this time I just make myself less awkward. So let's see what will happen. And I will still create a player one and 1 minute. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a typo. Age. So let's just run it again. So create people, create Dawei in my computer and let me speak. Okay, I am Dawei and I am 21 years old and I am a male. That sounds better. At least I feel better. So this is how we override the method from the parent class. Okay, so now basically we have introduced all the concepts here. Let's go back. What if I want to create some class that, let's go back to this one, fish, right? Remember, we had some error here because we need like 4 arguments for creating an animal. So remember I said there are 2 different ways to solve this problem. For one is you just give them what they need, right? So you just give them name, species, age, and color. But there's actually another way to solve this problem. Or maybe it's not a problem, it's just a way, okay? So I will just use this line instead of the original line. Look at the difference between these 2 lines. You will say the constructor here, instead of just have name, the name is an object, right? This object will be defined by yourself later, like the Coco is a string. This string is an object. But if we wish to have like default properties, we can do this. We can put an empty string here. We can put like age 0 here, just inside this constructor. Okay, so when we run this code again, and then we build up the fish as an animal, it's working. There's no error message. So let's check. Oh, sorry. I'm really curious about, please watch the bottom of screen. So I'm really curious about the age of the fish. What do you think? So what is the age of this fish? It's 0. It's 0. It's because we define the age as error as 0. Okay, so that's so sorry. That's my theory, and it's in Chinese. Okay. Okay, so let's move on. Normally, we will wish like the user, like the God, like yourself, to give us name, species, give us everything we need for the computer, because like the computer is just like a blank paper, right? So you need to write it down all by yourself. So let's go back here. We will still use this one. Okay. So we have already known like that is the so the animal would be the superclass or parent class, right? And when we have some differences, when we wish to do some different functions, we can override the existing functions and we can create new functions. Okay, so let's move on. Let's create this world. Let's make this world a little bit funnier. Like animals, right? You have animals. You have a lot of animals. You can create an army of animals. I don't care. But animals will want to use some tools. So let's say an example here. If you go down to the vehicle, you can see the rest of this Python file is 3 different classes. It's actually one class with 2 child class. So we want to create a class vehicle, and a vehicle has properties like color, like price, like gas. You can fill up the tank for the vehicle. You can empty the tank. You can also check the gas left. So if you have this class here, you can actually easily build up a vehicle. Like I will write it at the bottom of my screen. My car is a vehicle. And the price is like, okay, I don't care the price, the color, maybe silver, or maybe I need to make it a string, right? So now I have a car. I have car in my world. And let's say my car dot gas. I'm sorry, my computer just froze a little bit. So right now you can see the gas is 0 because we set the default gas as 0. But what about my car? Fill up tank. And remember, this is a function, so we need to do this. Okay, so right now I fill up my tank. Let's check my gas. Oh, it's 100 right now, right? So this is how we use a class. This is how we operate an instance. We create a class that is more like guidance, like like just like summary, and then you can create everything you want. You can create as many as you want instance from this class. So they will all have same property. They will all have same functions, and you can like use functions for each of them, and you can also define different different values of property of them. But you don't have to do that every single time. You don't have to like write down, okay, I have a car, the car is in red, and the car is like $100, whatever. And right, so that is the basic idea. And then if we create a truck, it's always still a vehicle, right? So we wish to use the price and color from previous from our parent class. And then we also want some tires here, right? So if we do this, the truck will has another property that you need to define, right? And also, besides all those functions, you can define another new function like beep. So we will print honk honk. And for small car, maybe we don't really care about tires, but we do care about speed. So we can do like, we can also use beep, but print beep beep, right? So this is actually the general idea of what is a class, what is the properties of class, what is the functions of a class. So just remember this, everything in Python is an object. So when you create an object, you need to make sure that you know what type of object they are. You can even use type to, I think type my car to check what class that is. So here you can say, if you type, no, I'm sorry, forgive me. You can use type to check what kind of the object that is. Like here, you can say the type, my car is belong to the class vehicle, okay? So if I write down like A equal to 1, so A is an object. So what is the type of A? You will say the type of A is an int. So every single thing in Python is an object. But if you wish to define something, you can create a class. A class could have a lot of different properties. A class could have their functions. You can always inherit a class, inherit yourself from another class, and inherit another class for yourself. And then you can add some new features, new properties, new functions. Let's think about it. Just now, we have already tried to create whatever we want, right? So it doesn't have to be something you can see and you can touch. All these examples here we made was like animal. You could always see animal, right? Look at yourself. So you can see animal, you can touch an animal. And you can always see a vehicle, right? So go out of your door, you will see a lot of vehicles. So that is something you can see and you can touch. But we can also create something, we can also create some substract concepts. For example, think about this. We can create an army, right? So an army could have a lot of different properties. Okay, so you might say that's still something you can say. Maybe what about a company? A company is actually an abstract concept, right? So there is no real thing in this world is company, right? You can't touch it. Maybe you can enter its building, right? But anyway, so also you can create like something like religions, right? Religion. You can start your own cult. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. And right, yeah. So if you think that if you take that as a class, that will be your class, and that you can define a lot of different properties as well as functions, right? And also simulator, things like that. Okay, so let's do a little bit more than this. We have already created this all things like class like animal, right? Human. Let me just save this file, and then I want to use them. I want to use those classes. I don't want to, like build up those things, like it looks like so complex, right? This is only like 4 different properties and 1 function. This is already so too much for me. So I don't want to do that again. What should you do? What should we do? So in the second Python file, Please remember, if you check the files in our chat channel, you please make sure that these two Python files, they are located in under the same folder. In that case, you will be able to run this code. Otherwise, you have to do system and find where the other Python file is. Okay, so okay, let's do this. Let's import OOP. Does that looks familiar with you guys? We always use import in Python, right? We import scalar, we import numpy, we import numpy as np, right? And also sometimes we use from numpy or maybe like from scalar, we import cross validation. So let's do this. We can do import OOP. Okay, let's say that is to save this one, to save this one. Okay, let's try again. Okay, I have some trouble here. Okay, it's supposed to be, oh God, what the hell that is. Give me one moment. Let me just try to fix it. Okay, maybe why don't we just create a new Python file here. Okay, so let's do import OOP. All right, so this is weird. Okay. To be honest, I don't know what happened. It went really well when I was testing it. I'm not so sure about if I changed any setting or something. But if you
when you go to when you look at statement number 10 from OOP import car, car is in small case. It has to be capital.
But I still couldn't find the module OOP, so that's a problem. Okay, so I think my Python just got lost. But anyway, it should work if you put them into the same folder. So if you input, if you import OOP, that means you will import all the classes that you write down in the OOP in this file, and then you can create a car with like price, color, and speed, and then you can check the properties and you can use the BIP. So you can try it by yourself, and I won't waste any more time here. So let's go back to our slides. Okay, so I guess everything makes sense now, because when we bundle our code into a single unit, that's we call it encapsulation, right? We bundle all the codes into a single unit, and when we use a car, when we use when we create a new instance, we don't need to know what code behind them. Think about, like the scalar, when you use something, when you use some functions, you don't really need to know like how did they encoded those functions. So that is a major benefits. And also, by using class, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. So we're able to generalize our object types, right? So that means we need to make sure that we always know what are we writing. Is that an class? What class, right? Is that just an int, right? And also the class can inherit properties and functions from other class. So that is a lot of code reusing. And also, at last, one class can be created many objects. You can create, like I said, you can create as many as you want. Uh, like an army, if you wish to create like 1,000 people army, you can do that. It's your world, right? So just don't create that in our real world. All right, so this will be the last part of my last part of the first part. I'm sorry. We're a little bit over time here, but I would like to give you a quick intro to UML class diagram, because this is something we will see very, very often. The UML is Unified Modeling Language. There is a lot of different diagram for UML, but as for us, as for OOP, like object-oriented programming, we always use class, right? So if you can see, there are two boxes here. The first box we can see on the top is the class name, and then this part is class attributes, or we call it class properties. And then this part is class operations. We call it functions or method. And then you may notice there are negative marks and like minor and plus here, right? Plus means public, minor means private. And then you can see some lines here. This is a very, very simple one. You will see more complex things when you work with someone else. So we can say this is actually, the line is actually showing us the relationship. So this is a type of parent and child relationship in which a level has at least one subclass. So this child is connected to the parent through a solid line with a hollow arrowhead. So this is how we do that. And if you want, and also when you're programming, you can do like so complex class diagram. You may also use a simple, I think simple association relationships, aggression relationships, and like composition relationships and different relationships. Okay, that's all for the first part. Do you have any questions? Okay, so maybe let's move on, and I will leave all the questions to the last. So for the second part, I will briefly talk about the usage logic of Tableau and the interactive graph. So Tableau is actually something very funny because it's very easy to use. There are millions of tutorials on the website. You could always find a way to solve your problem by Googling them. And I think Tableau, the company, like they develop, the developing company for the Tableau, they also post a lot of tutorials. So just make sure, like when you want something, you do that. But first of all, let's check on the usage logic for the Tableau. So there are several basic steps. So as you can see, I already listed here. If you click the yes, the link, you will find the tutorials here. It will be very complex, so take it easy. You can go to each step, okay? Okay, so let's go back. So what we're doing here is for the basic ideas, first, we need to connect your data because for any data visualization, you need to connect your data, right? And then you need to drag and drop and take a first look. And then you need to focus on your results. What kind of results do you want? Explore your data a little bit and draw down into those details. And then finally, you can build up the dashboard to tell your story. So this is actually not funny. Let's do something in the real world. Okay, here's my Tableau. So as a student, you can ask for the education version of Tableau for free. Just register on their website, and they will send you all the thing you need. Okay. So generally speaking, I'm gonna need to have a new Tableau start up here. Okay, is that running? Okay. Anyway, so this isn't something you will see when you open up the Tableau. Okay, this is something you will see when you open the Tableau. So you will see like the connect. The first thing first, remember, you need to connect your data. You can connect data from a lot of different places, like Excel, text file. We use text file very often. So I'm not gonna show you like the thing here. If you have like CSV file, you can also choose text file to open it, okay? Because like CSV file is a text file per se. And then when you loaded the, I think it's this one. Okay, when you load the data here, you will see this is your master data. And you will see all your data here. And also remember, this data will be something you will be virtualized. And you can also manipulate this data here by clicking edit group, rename, right? Copy value, and even calculate even do some calculation and aggression. So always to remember that you can manipulate your data here, right? You can check your data, and then what was the next step? You need to drop. You need to, let's say here, you need to drag and drop. What is drag and drop? Okay, now normally we have like three different icon here. This one, and this one. I'm sorry, I have like I already have those shit down. So anyway, so the most common one is sheet. So let's go to the sheet. Okay, so now you will see there are two different variables on your left side, and you have like a huge blank here. You can drop anything to column, to rows, or to the field here, or to the field here. You can drop it over there, and then there is a very great, amazing function called show me on the yeah, I think it's on the right top of the software, no matter you are using a Mac or Windows. So for example, you wish to draw a bubble chart. If you put your, I don't know why my cursor looks like this, but if you put your cursor here, they will tell you you still need one more dimensions and one or two measurements. So the dimensions is in this dark blue. Actually, they are dimensions, and the mirrors, they are mirrors. Basically, they are numerical data. Okay. So so this this loading is very slow. So let me just go back here. Let's see what I did. For this is the data set itself is a suicide rate for all the countries across a lot of years. And what I was trying to focus on was G20 countries suicide rate. So I had this suicide rate breakdown by using some bar chart over here, and you can always manipulate here. You can always manipulate here, and you can always manipulate your labels. And then after you manipulate everything, you need to think about, like, what do you want? If you wish to know, like, okay, I have like G20 country here, they're all here, and the suicide rate is they're all here. But I like to know like which country has like higher suicide rate. Maybe you need to figure out the average, right? So always try to think about what kind of result are you looking for. So that's one thing. Another thing is for the color scheme. I'm not gonna talk a lot about here because if you take DSA 465, you will learn a lot more about how to utilize this different charts, like bubble charts, like human eyes will not very sensitive to the circled areas. So I would leave that to the DSA 465, but I would just show you very quick about how do you build up the suicide rate or something like this. So here is like in this sheet is actually Russia's suicide rate change. So you can see when we do suicide rate here, we have a lot of suicide rate, right? So back in our data. So we will need to figure out a way to visualize those things, very in a correct way. Here, if you use sum to calculate, oh God, sorry, this is so slow. If you use sum oh God, I'm so sorry. Okay. So if you sum the suicide rate here, that wouldn't be a good thing. You might want to use average, you might want to use count for different situations, right? So always remember you can manipulate those numbers here. You can always do aggregations, and even you can do some quick table calculation. You can try, you can find the percentage difference. Okay, so when you have all of those things, like when I have this thing and when I have this thing, I create a word map by using the dataset and the word map function that's provided by Tableau. So you can see the G20 country suicide rate here in the map, and you can also check. Okay, let me just. Okay, you can also check the rate here. Like we know that Russia has the highest suicide rate. I don't know really why, but anyway. So now let's talk a little bit about interactive graph. So when we have a lot of things that we need to, when we have some insights like this one, okay, so I would say this is actually insight for me, right? So the suicide rate change among these years. So the yellow line is GDP growth. You can say even though you can say like the GDP growth after 2000 in Russia is actually pretty good. So the suicide rate change, it's not suicide rate, it's suicide rate change. That means suicide rate is for this year is minus 1%, right? So the suicide rate is going down and down and down for each year after 2000. So I think I find some insights here. I think maybe like there are some interesting patterns along other G20 countries, right? So how do I create an interactive graph here, like this one? Okay, my apologize. Okay, so okay, cool. So right now you can say this is on the upside of this interactive map, you can see all the G20 countries, and you can still see like the suicide rate in different colors. And then on the bottom side of this chart, you can see suicide rate change and versus GDP growth rates, growth rate. So this one will be for all the 20 countries. And when I want to see like what happened to Russia, we can always click. Okay, and yes, it takes a while to change in my computer. I'm using a Mac 1 chip computer, so sometimes it's going very slow. Okay, so when we wish to say what happens there in Australia, we can just click. How do we do that? Remember I said there are 3 different icons here, right? So we will use this one and this one. So the first one is sheet. The sheet will give us an opportunity to, first of all, explore our data set, take a closer look for our data, and then draw a graph like this, or other graphs, right? And then when we have them, like I said, I think I have some great insights for the suicide rate among these G20 countries. I will start a new dashboard. This one is dashboard. So I will click on dashboard. Now the dashboard is totally clean. It's like blank, right? So what will we do is say drop sheets here. we will drop which one? We will drop the word map here. Okay. And also we will drop the changing rate here on the bottom part. Okay. Oh, it's supposed to be this one because this one is actually Russia. So let me just drop this one here. Give it a minute. Okay, it's loading. Okay, so we have this similar thing here, but remember when I click on Australia, it just goes to Australia, right? When I click Brazil, it just the bottom chart will goes to Brazil, Brazil, right? So it doesn't change right now. How do we make them connect to each other? It's very simple. See this one here, we will use as filter. We will use the filter function. If we click use as filter, and then just give it a second. Yes, it will change. That's how you link these two different shades together. That's how you do the interactive. And that's actually all the things that I have for you guys today. All right, so last thing is, don't forget to interact with us. We have our front page QR code. We have our Slack group QR code and tutoring center QR code. Feel free to schedule a session. Feel free to schedule a session with CDM Tutoring Center, and they're all free. So there are a lot of amazing tutors that I know. And do you have any questions? Okay, I think I will give the time back to Taylor.
Yeah, let me just stop the recording right quick. So thank you, Dawei. That was excellent. Good job. As I mentioned, the recording will be posted on YouTube early next week. And again, in case if you missed it, our upcoming events for the next week, we have a bi-weekly coffee shop on Thursday, which is just an opportunity for you to come by and hang out with us. It's just an informal chat, so you could drop in and out at any time, so don't worry about the times. But it occurs from 6 to 7, if I got that right. And then there is also a LinkedIn workshop on Friday. We could go over the best way to set up a LinkedIn profile, how to get noticed by potential employers. And again, look out for the email about upcoming positions that are opening up on the board. And don't forget to fill out the Google spreadsheet. Don't forget to fill out the Google spreadsheet if you haven't already, so we can all connect with each other. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you.